Hi, thanks very much for coming. I've spoken at now Google I/O and at Chrome Dev Summit about the physical web. I don't want to redo this too often. How many folks here have heard of the physical web? Can I get a show of hands? So about half of you. So what I'm going to do is do a quick overview of what it is and then talk about how it can be used, and I have a little demo using Polymer at the end. The idea about the physical web is that we've been working really hard to make the web work on mobile phones. And we're getting really good at responsive websites, quick websites, to get it smaller and faster and to kind of work on pages. But we're not really tackling the issue of making them useful in a mobile context. So let's say, for example, that you're touring an area and you want to find information about where you are, or in a sense that you want to get some transit information from the bus that you're currently on. Just having URLs like painted up on the wall isn't necessarily the most useful way to get people onto your website. Or even events like this, when we want to be able to get information. Like right now, we have physical web beacons in this room, and you can pull down and see them in your notification manager to actually get the schedule of the event. And so many people want to use QR codes occasionally, but QR codes haven't always really taken off as best as they had been. They have certain issues. Like if you had them in this room, you'd have to stand up and go over to take a picture of the QR code. Now, I don't want to make too much fun of the Polymer demo with the Polymon, because they're actually showing off really cool web media queries within the app, so I'll give them a pass. But there's basically this really lovely flow chart that says, should I use a QR code? Maybe you've seen this on the web. It's, should I use QR code? No. But what if, oh my God, no. Because let's be, if you happen to have the app, the QR code installer, yes, you can make it work. But so many companies have tried this and it doesn't work. And engineers seem to be completely convinced that it works. Have you guys seen the Tumblr that says pictures of people taking QR codes? It has no posts yet. So QR codes are a fine idea. They just are very, very limited in what they can do. And in places like this, with large spaces, being able to play with stuff, we need something else. And so the whole idea of the physical web is that the web needs a discovery service, and not something bolted onto the side, something that's like the web itself. So if you were to have, say, something like a vending machine and a bus stop and maybe a parking meter, and they're all broadcasting URLs, what's the experience like when you walk into that space? Because what you want things to do is to wirelessly broadcast a URL and then basically be able to provide a list of things. And the URL is a really good start. That's a good human readable thing. But you also would like to say, have a favicon and a title and maybe a snippet so that people could actually see what it is. And then if they tapped on it, you just take them to the website. It's kind of like a QR code, but it's awesome. It's a big difference between that. So here's an example of how this would work. Here's a parking meter demo I do. We've made this fake parking meter, and you get the little notification, and off it goes. You pick the actual parking meter, and then you're done. The physical web part is over. Now you're on a web page that's using web sockets. So when you go up, you just send an event and it increments, and you hit pay, and then it just starts to, boom, go. Every time I show this video in San Francisco, people just cry a little bit inside. Because we actually have, in a sense, this kind of system with an app, but nobody ever uses it. Now, I will admit to one little cheat here. I didn't show the pay-up, sign-up flow, right, which is an issue. People always ask, well, are you going to use Google Pay? I'm like, I don't care. It's the web. Use Bitcoin. The idea is that it's anything that you want to use. Now, with the first pass through, yes, you'll sign up, but then you get a cookie, and the next time you go through it, it'll be exactly like that. And that's what we're trying to do. So to a certain extent, the physical web is trying to bridge the physical world and the web type of idea. So it's open like the web. We are open source. We're actually on GitHub, so please go to physical-web.org and you can see all the videos I'm going to show you and all the source code. We've got an Android app, a Mac, an iOS app, a Node.js app. That's the lovely thing about open source. People are really kind of adding an awful lot to it. And it's really meant to be a simple, open way for people to find and discover URLs. It's also just a web page. We're so used to thinking of the web as this place to get effectively a big, giant portal. So you go to Coke.com and you drill your way down. Well, what we're trying to do is to flip it around, and we go to this particular vending machine or this particular bus stop. It completely inverts the whole process and gets the user right to what they need at that point. It's kind of a different way of looking at it. The other thing is, it's about this idea of walking up and using. There's so much app fatigue today that if you're walking through like a mall and there's some type of vending machine, it's like, just install an app. No one's gonna do that. So we're trying to make this like literally a tap and you're in. And the other thing that's really important, and I get this question all the time, it cannot interrupt the user. So what happens is that we send a silent notification that will be in the notification bar. But if you walk into a really busy place with like 15 or 30 beacons, you get one silent notification. And when you tap on it, it gives you that list. Now, some people, early adopters, are frustrated with us because they really want to vibrate and get people to kind of know about it. But we really want to be on the right side of history here. We really want people to not feel that this is intrusive. We want them to be part of it. So they have to say, hey, let me go see what's around. And they pull it around and they can tap on it. And this is going to slow down adoption a little bit, but it's going to be on the right terms. People are going to feel like they're part of it. We feel that's a really good way to start. I often get a lot of questions about security as well. And there's lots of things that we're doing. And of course, more we could do. But let's just start with the fact that the beacons send out an advertising packet. If you want to get into the real details, we're not using a scan response packet because we want the beacon to broadcast it and have no idea if you've received it. This keeps the beacon from tracking you, the user. Next, we're using a scanner proxy so that effectively when you, let's just try that again. Use a scanner proxy so that when we get all these URLs on the phone, we go through our proxy to then get all this information so that the website can't track you and be able to do all of that. Now, this scanner, by the way, is open source. So if you want to do another scanner or use something else, you can do that. That's just what we're doing on our side. In addition, there's, of course, the browser sandbox. We've been, for 25 years, the browser's been working really hard to make a safe place to execute code. And of course, the last thing we can do is just simply best practices. Because in the case of that parking meter, money was taking place. You want to protect against someone putting a malicious beacon in there. So clever things like UX two-factor authentication so that when you walk up to the meter, it might say, hey, Scott. If you want to be really careful, the website could say, type in what's showing on the meter so that you could really make sure that you're talking to the right meter. So there's lots of things we can do in addition to make this really easy to do and safer to do. The other issue is about too many results. Right now, I'm thrilled if I find one or two beacons. Right now, there's like 7 or 8 in this room. It's kind of cool. But we're starting off with a pretty simple model of a simple list ranked by distance coming up next month. And so that handles quite a few things so that if you have a large number of things, the things that are closest to you will be at the top. But we can easily add a few more things, like, for example, ranking by usage. In that sense that if you are in a mall and you see the mall map, but it's a very weak, distant thing, but if everybody clicks on it, we'll raise that to the top. If we really want to get more fun, we could do things like using folders and organizing things a bit more. But again, because this is all open, there's already 2 or 3 Android browsers for the physical web in addition to Chrome, and there's like 4 of them on iOS, and they're all trying different things using different mechanisms of displaying, and they're just keeping us honest. And we think that's awesome. That's how it should be. So let me give you a couple of examples because, again, people think of this as just a URL. What's the big deal? I mean, come on, it's just a page, right? So here's some of the examples of what we've built. Here's a restaurant buzzer. You pull it down, you're in Bob's Deli, and it kind of goes, hey, Bob's Deli, click on it. Physical web is now done. We're now going to a page that says, hey, there's 8 people in front of you. Do you want a push notification when it's your turn? When you push on it, you're opting into a push notification, in which case then, 15 minutes later, when it's your turn, you now get a vibrating alert in your pocket. But the difference is that you asked for it. Now keep in mind, this isn't the physical web. This is just the web being awesome. We just got you to the web page a little bit faster, right? Here's another one here, which is a little toy called an Ollie. It's popular in the States. It's a Bluetooth-controlled toy that has its app that you can do, but they've publicized their commands. So we had a little beacon that broadcast it. Here it shows up, physical web. And then we call it Little Bro. You click on Little Bro, and now you're on a web page that downloads web Bluetooth JavaScript. And now you can say, oh, I want to connect to it. We pick this, and you're now connected to Little Bro. And once you pair to it, you can now control this toy. Here's a little joystick, and you're just driving it across the floor. Now, keep in mind, this device has no internet connectivity at all. You're just sending Bluetooth commands to it. So it means you could do some very cheap little toys and use everything through your phone. This is an example of a, well, to be safe, it's a fake pill bottle with a fake prescription, but I put my name on it. Just so that we can kind of demo what it would be like, because in about a year or two, we're going to start getting beacons that cost about 75 cents. That's still way too much for most retail packaging, but for very high compliance drugs, this could be very useful. Broadcast the URL, you can get information, and you know, a lot of times you get these drug payment things in this big U-shaped piece of paper, and you have to unfold it 18 times, and it's the 17 different languages. The web gives you your language in default, so it can, the language that you need right in front. And guess what? It can do a YouTube video or other things. It's just a web page. It's just information, but it's so much better than we had before. So this is a tiny, tiny example of how we could use this. Here's one that we built, which is kind of a little voting booth idea. And the intention here is that you can pull down and get the beacon for a little voting booth. This is kind of like a high-end version of what Paul and Sam just showed, which is to say you get a little web page that shows a thumb up and a thumb down. And when you press on it, it gives you a little voting, and whichever one is winning gets that little hot dog background shape. But we had a little bit of fun. As you slide around, you can actually slide it back and forth, because we wanted people to be obnoxious on purpose. We wanted to up and down and left and right, and people have a lot of fun with this, and it makes for a much more entertaining kind of, and it's really simple, lightweight thing to do. Again, just WebSockets, nothing fancy there. And here's the last one, is this photo wall, which is people like to do selfies, and so we have this up in our office in Mountain View. And so it's a little URL that lets people put up selfies and then browse them. We wanted to have both sides of it. We wanted to have a browsing experience and then, by the way, leave something. So it has a little page that lets you scrub through and see all the selfies that people have left, all by browsing around on your phone. Your phone is like a trackpad. But if you want to, you can then turn on the camera and then take a picture then on your phone. And again, just using a WebSocket, it's going to take a picture. Come on, hurry up. I only have 20 minutes. Okay, take the picture, and then once the photo gets taken, pew, it shows up on the page. And it's been really fun having this up and running in our office because people come by and take pictures all the time. And again, it's a lightweight, interactive type of idea. Again, just using the web. So when I talk to people about this, I get all sorts of ideas because people kind of conflate the physical web and the Internet of Things. Now, I like the Internet of Things a lot, but it's a lot more complicated and does an awful lot of background processing and magic stuff that has a lot more work to do. We're just trying to get people started on a simple web page. So the first guideline I give to people in doing the physical web is start with a web page. What is the web page you want to write? The physical web just gets you there faster. So then once you've figured out what your web page is, you just stick up a beacon and you're done. Makes it much, much easier. Second thing, please don't build a scanner. And what I mean by this is, I'm not kidding. 3 people in various workshops have said, I know what we're going to do. We're going to put beacons on every student so the teacher never has to take attendance again. That's a weird idea. First of all, students are going to lose the beacons, but that's a whole other issue entirely. But the idea is that everybody wants to do some kind of weird background scanning notification magical thing. And you know, we can actually start to do that eventually with the physical web, and I think we have roadmap ideas for that. But let's just walk before we run right now. And right now the idea is let's just get to a web page and open it up. Just deal with interaction on demand kind of cases. The other one is a real simple point, but it saved my butt so many times. Don't take your URL and just stick it into the beacon. Use a URL shortener, especially one that can be reset. So all the beacons we have here at this conference are going through a URL shortener, and if for some reason I don't find them all, and they kind of get left around, I'll redirect them to null, so 303. And they'll keep broadcasting, but the scanner will no longer find them because there's no web page to show. So it allows you to cloud manage your beacons. There's even a company right now that actually has this built into their beacon. So in the morning, it shows you the morning menu, and then at lunchtime menu in the afternoon. So like during the day, it actually dynamically changes it, even though it's the exact same URL every single time. So there's a couple of patterns that have emerged from this that helps people think about how to build this. So the first one is what I'm calling flooding. We did this at Google I/O back in May. We basically just took 2 beacons, not 2, 20 beacons, and we just plaster them all over the area, and they just did the schedule, a little bit like what we're doing here. I have a very active remote here. So effectively, by flooding the whole area, you just get people simple information on demand. This whole conference is served by 4 beacons for the schedule. If you turn up the power, they cover a wide area, so it's really not that hard to do. The next one is what I'm calling single point. It's another pattern. And this is what was done in buses in London. Transport for London did this with 100 buses, where they basically had a beacon on these buses, and you'd pull it down and it goes, hey, you're on bus 53. This is the stop that you're at right now. Here's the next 15 bus stops. Where are you getting off? And you pick one, and then it would do a push notification. Put it in your pocket, and then when you got close, it would vibrate, and you could take off. So that helps. That's the opposite pattern, point to point. And of course, the pill bottle was another example of that. Breadcrumbs is another one where you could kind of have something like National Trust, where you have a whole bunch of those placards for the signs, or a tourist thing where you set a bunch of beacons out so people can experience it as you go. Another pattern that people want to play with. And the one that I find more interesting is this concierge idea. So you can actually go to the website, and then it takes care of you after the fact. The example here, of course, was the Bob's Deli example. So that you kind of interact with the website, and then 5 minutes or 5 days later, it could send you a message to say, oh, your order is ready, or whatever. And the one that everyone likes to play with is the web Bluetooth, is the remote control. And that's the one that lets you kind of take all of the effort on your phone and kind of make a fairly cheap device in front of you. So the bottom line is, I have kind of learned something that's kind of obvious, but it really has been, it's kind of really reinforced why the web is so awesome, because people are doing such creative things with URLs and shorteners and the web pages. We've been kind of blown away, because we know it, but we don't really appreciate that URLs plus the web are just so damn flexible. You can just do so many things with it. And so by kind of betting on URLs as the way we're broadcasting, we've enabled lots of innovation to happen that we didn't even think was going to happen. That's been kind of fun. Now, I'm not trying to get into this web versus native debate. About 4 years ago, I wrote a blog post called Mobile Apps Must Die. I really regret that. It got a lot of traction, a lot of press, and it kind of set up a false dichotomy. Apps are fine. We don't know that. But the point we're trying to say is there's a certain case when physical web enables interaction when apps just aren't practical. We're trying to catch the low-hanging, lightweight fruit. So, demo time. What I want to do is now power my little gizmo. This is an RFduino that's just running, and when I power it up, it basically now broadcasts a URL. And what I'll do here is I have 10 new Twitter interactions. That's cool. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to pull down the notification manager, and here's effectively nearby. And here's CandyBot 9000, pretty appropriate name. And then we open it back up. This is just going to open up web Bluetooth, and then I'm going to connect to the device and pair to it. And now that I've paired to it, I'm going to do a real simple command that basically drops candy. Oh. I'm trying. Why did this simply just? Interesting. This worked the 95 times I tried it beforehand. Okay. Connect. The only thing I can think of, and this is what often happens with demos, is that in a room full of people, it wouldn't surprise me that some of you guys are trying to do this at the same time. Maybe and I don't know if you guys can see it, but like this is like the world's cheapest hunk of junk ever, right? It's an RFduino with a USB device and a little servo on it. It's really, really inexpensive, and it's got like this much line of code in there. It just has a single GAT service intent that just responds to the image, and so then when I push the button, it just simply just pulls that one thing up and just drops it. So what I want to do is I want to show you the code right now how to do this. So in a sense, because I was kind of expecting that to happen, so. You know, boys will be boys. The issue here is that this is really, really simple code, right? And so all we're doing is basically including effectively the Platinum Bluetooth element right here. And then all we're specifying is the name and the GATT service. And that just basically creates this Bluetooth object using this Polymer element. So this is your declaration of the entire object. And then the code becomes as simple as just creating 2 query selectors to get the actual Bluetooth device and the actual command to actually do it. And then when you get the click, you just simply request the item, which will then bring up that prompt. And then you just do a write of a 1, which then writes the single value to it, and then you pull it out. So it's really, Polymer makes this exceptionally easy for you guys to do this code. And we think it's really a helpful, simple way, because with this much code, you can control a device, and it's really, really fast and easy. So the bottom line is, we are an open source project. We're trying very much for this to be of the web, and I do these speaking engagements things just so that people can try it out and play with it. It's not a Google product. And if we pushed it really hard, I think we'd scare people away. This has got to be it'll only succeed if we as a community want it to succeed. So please go to our GitHub, check it out. We've got the beacons all around, and I'll be sticking around afterwards at the after party, so please come talk to me afterwards, and thanks very much. Appreciate it.